She was there. I didn't make it up, I'm sure. Now, of course, I've just got to get through this bush. Where has she gone? There was a hyena right here somewhere. This 2 seconds has now disappeared. Maybe it's gone round the mound somewhere on the other side, but there was one lying just underneath this green tree that you see, and it must have stood up and moved, but I'm trying to scan all around me and I can't see any sign of a hyena moving in this area. Oh, there it is. There. You can see Ntima coming out now, so maybe they are around the other side where the shade is. Hello, Ntima. Ntima's coming to say hello to all of you. There we go, coming around the bush, just poking its head out. Good afternoon, everybody. She's so curious. She always comes out and has a little look just to make sure that we're not up to no good. So she's now off and moving and checking around. I wonder if the rest of them are lying behind there somewhere. She's busy sniffing. Now, I apologize about the millions of branches in the way. I'm sorry, Senzo, I'm not making it easy for you. But I thought that they were going to be a little bit more out in the open from where I am. It seems as though they're a bit more hidden, so I might have to reposition just now. Let's just see where Ntima goes. Ntima might be curious enough to actually come towards where we are and come and say hello properly. She often does come waddling along towards the car just to see everything and check everything out and sniff around and make sure that she's on top of the situation as the older of the siblings here. Oh no, now she's laid down. You can see how they can disappear even in this grass. That's how you do it. You just lie down in long, thick grass. You can imagine finding leopards, lions, even hyenas in these kind of conditions is almost impossible. Right. Senzo, I think we're going to have to rethink this because where we are now is in fact no good whatsoever. We're going to have to try and just reposition ourselves, but at least there are some hyenas at the den. It's fantastic news. So I'm going to try and see if I can't get Rusty into reverse. There we go. Rusty's now into reverse. Senzo, I think we're going to try and go through here, which is going to be a little thick, so I do apologize. This is very thick through here. Okay, now the mission today is to try and keep all parts of Rusty and me and Senzo and earpieces and cables intact because we've had a bad week. Ah, there we go. Now, we've got our hyena just here. That's the one that obviously walked away. Is that Ribbon or is it Gwen? I can't see nicely. All I can see is their back poking out in the grass. Oh, you're right there, Senzo. Senzo's busy battling a thorn tree, and it looks possibly like it's Gwen. I can't see nicely at all. Like I say, my angle, all I've got is this little spotted fur coat between the branches. There we go. So it is a adult hyena. Are you Gwen or are you Ribbon? I think it's Gwen. Looks like Gwen. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can help me out. Hashtag Safari Live, whether it's Gwen or Ribbon, but it's one of them, and they obviously are having a very big nap, which is quite common for this time of the day. You'll find that these guys will sleep quite a bit at this time. They'll only wake up once the sun starts to set, in which time they'll go towards the den and call the little ones, and the little ones will come out to get a feed, and then mom is off to go and try and find food and to go and check around and probably to go and torment Taylor, because Ribbon and Gwen spend a lot of time around the camp, and they are constantly dragging bins and all kinds of other things, which means that Taylor is constantly on guard and having to do night patrol and check out and make sure that these guys don't eat and chew and break and maim our rubbish bins and kitchen area. So certainly do keep Taylor busy at night. I would imagine, though, that with this wind, this is going to be fairly typical. A lot of the predators is just hunkering down in thick grass, waiting for the wind to die. Raiza, are you wondering where the main den site is with the matriarch? Raiza, that is a fantastic question, and I wish I knew the answer to it, because we have no idea where the matriarchal females are denning at the moment. We've looked, we've checked, we constantly keep checking the older dens just to make sure that there isn't any sign of Pretty and Madam and the rest of them, but at this stage, no sign of where they are. So I have no idea where that den is. We see them a lot more towards the south of the reserve, so I hypothesize that their den might be off our southern boundary in Hofmans and Little Gowrie, somewhere there, but that's not confirmed in any way, and it could just be a complete load of rubbish. But given that their tracks go back and forth from that side, and you see them a lot crossing from Treehouse southwards, and particularly because I've seen them a lot of mornings going from Treehouse southwards, that I would think that the den is somewhere that side. But I could, of course, be horribly wrong, and there might be a den somewhere here. We just haven't found it yet, and time will tell. Funny enough, hyena dens aren't as easy to find as one would think. The hyenas move a lot at night, and their tracks are pretty much on every single road that covers this particular area, and you can drive a road and you'll find a hyena track on it. So following tracks is not easy to lead you to a den. In fact, most of the times that I found hyena dens, it's been following other animals, wild dogs, leopard, lion, whatever it may be, and you're driving through the bush and all of a sudden there's a termite mound and a hyena on top or near it, and you can then see that they've been denning or active in that area. So that's probably the easiest way, but I suppose you could follow them through the bush and try and find their dens, but sometimes they roam big distances, and if they're not denning at that time, you could end up going a long, long way, and you'll end up not finding anything, and they just rest somewhere. Now, I believe there are some answers as to who our hyena is. I hypothesize Gwen, but I might be wrong. There we go. So, Crystal, you say it's definitely Gwen. Thank you, Crystal. It, like I say, looked like her. From what I can see on the monitor, that right ear is quite damaged and has got a lot of little nicks out of it. But from the angle that I'm sitting, it's amazing how a few centimeters or about half a meter difference between the camera and where I am gives a completely different view. The camera's got a full-on clear view, and well, all I can see is a back leg at the moment over a fallen over tree. So definitely is Gwen from what I can see. Also, the problem with this afternoon is the wind is howling and there's so much dust in the air that our monitors are covered in them, and even though you wipe it, it just tends to be covered in the next second again. So seeing is not very easy. We know that Taylor this morning had a rather comical incident with a oxpecker and a kudu, and which was very entertaining. I went and watched the clip on it, and it certainly was quite funny. So when the monitors are a bit dusty, it is very hard for us to sometimes see exactly what's going on, particularly when the sun's out, because it gets a lot of glare off the dust, and you battle to actually see what is happening. But there we go. Now we can see. Now I can see that she's got her head up. It's most definitely Gwen. So thank you, Crystal. Appreciate the help. Crystal is probably one of our biggest experts on the hyenas in Djuma. She knows them very well. So a trusted opinion, that's for sure. Oh, Gwen, has it been a long evening? Gwen looks quite full though. If I have a look at that tummy, you can see there it's not full, but given that we're in the afternoon, I wouldn't be surprised she managed to find herself a little meal last night somewhere along the line. Maybe she found herself a kill from one of the leopards and stole it and had a good feed, because there's a slight bulge to it. Remember, they do digest very fast, and it's amazing how quickly you see hyenas digesting. I've had hyenas that have been on elephants or buffalo or hippos, and they are absolutely massive. They have these big round stomachs in the morning, and they're waddling, they can hardly move, and by the afternoon they've come right down and they end up looking quite similar to what Gwen does now. So I think she's had a fairly decent meal. She certainly doesn't look skinny in any way. She's looking really good for an older female, and hopefully she's going to be around for a long time to come, and the little ones are going to be out and about at some stage today. I would imagine though what we're going to probably have to do is we'll spend some time here now and then come back a little bit later, because we do also have a school joining us a little bit later, and so we'll come back to the den, and hopefully when we come back around sunset, the little tiny ones will be bouncing around all over the show, as they have been a few times in the last few weeks. So cool to see those little ones. They're such cute little things. Yvonne, you're wondering if Ntima is old enough to hunt with her mother. Yvonne, no, not yet. Ntima is not that old. She's only about 7 months now. So she's unfortunately still a little on the young side. She's a bit small, and so going and hunting is not the best idea. one, she doesn't have the technique. Two, she doesn't have the bulk and size to be able to bring down certain things, and then to cope if any other predators come in. So you'll find Ntima will only probably start moving around with the clan at a year old, which is when she's going to start learning, and she's going to start watching the adults and see how they go about their business. And then she'll only probably progress once she gets to sort of 2, 3 to be able to actively participate in hunts if the hyenas do go on hunts. Now, a lot of people might think hyenas don't hunt at all. In fact, they do, and particularly in the Sabi Sands area, they scavenge a lot, and that's what gives them this misnomer. But I've seen hyenas in this particular area hunting. If you go to the west slightly, the Elephant Plains clan, I've seen them kill bushbuck, impalas, kudu, wildebeest, buffalo. So there's a number of different individuals that they will hunt. Now, unfortunately, I'm getting dust in my eye, so I do apologize if you see me closing one eye every now and then. When that wind gusts, there's just dust everywhere. And so let's quickly go across to Taylor with her feathered friend. We'll see you all in a little bit. Well, we're really hoping so, Taylor. At the moment, I don't think we're going to see much of them. I'm sure they're enjoying the fact that they're inside a nice sheltered termite mound and don't have to deal with this horrible wind that is blowing. And also the fact that Gwen is lying all the way over here, quite far from the den itself, means that I highly doubt she's going to try and make her way anywhere towards where... Well, I don't highly doubt that the cubs will make their way towards where she is at the moment. Those little cubs are still tiny. They're only about 4 weeks old, I would imagine, by now. And so they're not venturing from the den very much at all. They're absolutely sort of static around that den and quite nervous to move. So I think they're going to wait until Gwen moves closer before they come out, and she actually calls them out. That will help. But like I say, we're probably going to carry on for now while she's sleeping and come back a little bit later. As I say, there are... we do have a school later, and later will also help with maybe the cubs being out. So it's going to be better to spend time a little bit more sort of closer towards sunset. Also, I've got to try and figure a way of getting out here. So let's just try and see if maybe if we change angle a little bit, we can see if there's any other hyenas around. Just careful there, Senzo, because I've got to go back a little bit to go forward. Now, watch yourself, Senzo, because this is a sharp tree on the left. Oh no. Careful, Senzo. Sorry, buddy. Oh. Now, unfortunately, our view of Gwen from here is probably not going to be any better whatsoever, which I had hoped. You can see she's just now behind a fallen over stump, so that's not going to really work either. I reckon what we're going to do, like I say, is just move on and let her enjoy a nice afternoon's rest in the sun. It's amazing because 2 days ago, this poor hyena would have been absolutely suffering if it were to lie exactly where it is now. The sun was beating down, it was hot, it was uncomfortable. But now, 2 days later, this cold wind comes and a little cold front arrives, and that's it. The hyena can now lie right out in the sun, and hopefully we're going to find some of our other cats, or other predators should I say, lying out in exactly the same way. Charlie, you're wondering if Gwen is the mother of Ntima? No, so Gwen is the mother of the 2 new ones, which are about 4 weeks old, as I was saying just now. And the mother of Ntima is Ribbon. Now, Ribbon we also do see a bit. I think she was at the dam cam last night, so she moves around quite a lot. But Ribbon is not here that I can see at the moment, unless she's lying on the other side of the mound. But I'm certainly not going to go around there, because given where we are now, we would have to chase Gwen off to be able to get back towards the mound. So the mound is that way. You can see she's moved quite far there. On the left is the big tree that's on the mound. So I'm not going to go that way and try and chase anybody or disrupt anybody from their sleep that they're busy having. So we'll certainly check a little bit later. But hopefully Ribbon will be around. It'll be really nice to have Ribbon, Gwen, Ntima and the little ones all together at some point this afternoon. But nice surprise. Nice to actually see that they're here, that's for sure. It's always good when we know that there's a few hyenas around. Hopefully I can just do a little turn here quickly without having to worry Gwen. Right, now I'm going to get rid of the sticks and all kinds of other nonsense that has managed to fall into the car and do about a 4,000 point turn to try get out of here and not disrupt these hyenas. And while I do that, let's go across to Taylor, who's slowly on her way towards the Mulawati, and I think she's heading towards a rather large, rather grey surprise. We know how to find the animals. Well, Noah, there's a lot of ways that we use it. So we'll use our eyes and our ears and even our noses to try and find the animals. So obviously with our eyes, we're looking and we're trying to spot them in the grass and in the trees and all of those places. But we'll also be looking for their footprints. So we'll be able to follow what we call tracks to try and find the animals. Then we'll listen. So if we hear an animal making a noise, let's say like a lion roaring or an elephant trumpeting, then we will definitely try and find them using that. And our sense of smell we do by sort of smelling urine of, let's say, a leopard. When it sprays its urine, it smells like popcorn, if you can believe it, and that's what we'll try and use. Now look, there's our little baby hyena. I'm going to turn off our lights and we're going to go into infrared, so you're going to see it go black and white shortly, and then we will be going and having a little look at our hyena cub that is sitting on top of the den. So there we go, I'm now in black and white, and our little hyena cub is just sitting over there. You see it's got on top of a mound of soil. Now this mound of soil is called a termite mound, and it's built by little insects. But once the insects die and move away, then things like hyenas will come and look after it. And so this little hyena cub lives inside that termite mound because it's safe there, so it can stay out of the way of predators like lions and leopards and even other hyenas. And this is where it will live, and it will wait until mom comes back. Then mom will come back and either suckle it with milk, but this little one's getting a bit big now for milk, so it will be on meat. And so mom will either bring meat to the den, so she'll carry a leg or a bit of a carcass back this way, or she will take the little one to wherever the carcass is if it's close by, and they can then feed off the meat and gain the nutrients that they need. Now this little one isn't all on its own. There are two others here, but they are tiny, tiny, tiny. They're only about 4 weeks old, so they're very cute, but they're also a little bit nervous. So you'll find that they spend most of their time inside, and particularly with the wind and the cold that we've got now, I would imagine that they are sleeping. They're not going to be spending too much time out. Now it's going to be trying to stay warm. But I don't see any sign of the adults. I was hoping that we would see the adults here. There's two females that are here because there's two different sets of cubs. So we have a female called Gwen, who's a very old female, and her name is short for Ngwenya, which means crocodile, because she had a very toothy grin, like a crocodile's grin. So that's where her name is. And the mother of this particular little cub is called Ribbon, and this little cub is called Ntima. And Ntima is known because she was very, very black when she was young. So when hyena cubs are born, they don't have those little spots that you see there. They're dark black in coloration, and so she stayed black for quite some time, so she got the name Ntima. So there are all the little spots, and the real name for this hyena is not just hyena, it's a spotted hyena, and it's because of that coat pattern that you see there. Now shame, this poor little one I think is very cold at the moment, so that's why it's curled up in a little ball. It's very cute though. Now unfortunately in the world everybody thinks hyenas are very bad animals because they steal food and that they are dirty, but they're actually not. Hyenas are amazing animals. They are very clean, they groom themselves, they keep themselves clean just like the cats do, and they make sure that they're not dirty and covered in meat and all kinds of other things. And while they do steal food, they also will hunt for themselves and try and find their own food, so they're not as bad as everyone thinks. Victor, you want to know how long hyenas live and how long they stay with their parents. Well, Victor, you'll find that a young hyena generally stays around the den like this, where its mother will be, until it is around a year old. In hyena society, and so the clan of hyenas, you'll find that the male is very low ranking, so that means that he doesn't really get treated very well, and he actually doesn't do much in terms of raising the cubs. So he's not going to really provide food for them. He might provide a bit of protection in the form form of the whole clan, but he's not really that big a part, so it's the mother that takes care. But at about a year old, they leave the den and they pretty much move away and they start to move around. But if it's a female, it will be absorbed into the clan, so it will be a part of the clan. It will stay with the clan and it will move around with the clan until it gets much older. If it's a male, sometimes it then gets pushed out and it has to go live somewhere else and join a different clan. So that does happen from time to time as well. In terms of how long they live for, hyenas can live to about 15 years. That would be very, very old for a hyena. Most of our hyenas out here, only around 12 to 13 is generally the average that they live for. As they start to get older, they get slower. And remember that hyenas compete with a lot of other... Oh, look at that, it's chewing. So they compete with a lot of other predators, which means that they have to fight for food, and they often around lion and leopard, and that means when they get a bit older and slower, they can sometimes get hurt. Now you see this little one is chewing on a stick. It's not a bone that it's chewing on a stick, and the reason why it's doing that is because it's probably teething. So its milk teeth, which is its first set of teeth, are busy falling out, and its new teeth are coming through. So its adult teeth are coming through, and that is very itchy for this little hyena, and so he chews on sticks and stumps to try and ease the itch on the gums and to try and make it feel more comfortable, and that's why he's chewing on it. You can see he's also scratching. Now you'll see a lot of scratching at dens like this, because as the dens go, so they get fleas in them, and that means that the little ones tend to scratch quite a bit. There we go, little scratching on the ear. Isn't it cute though? I think he's very cute. Or she, should I say. Ntima is a girl. Now she's going to probably come say hello. She's very curious, this hyena. She'll come and sniff around the car, but it's not anything to worry about, because it is still a young one and it just wants to see what we're doing. You see, look, it's coming straight towards us. So there we go, that's me right there. Hello, little Ntima. Now I'm going to try and get out the way so you can still see her. There she is. Isn't that amazing? Don't eat my tires, Ntima. You otherwise are going to be in lots of trouble. But there she is. She's probably sniffing on my tires, so I'm going to have to just check. I don't want her to eat them. No, she's just smelling, so that's okay. But she's disappeared around the front. There you can see her little leg. So it just shows you that she's very curious, and she's probably smelling all the little things that we do around the car. She might even be smelling us as people, and that's why she's checking and trying to see what's going on. Now I don't know where she's gone now. Oh, there she is. She's running back up to her mount. She got a bit of a fright when I leant over, so she's satisfied that she's explored what we are and happy that we're not something to worry about. But you see the instinct. When she's scared, she runs up to the top of the mound, and there's a little hole where she's standing just behind her, and she'll go down into that hole if something's around. So there we go. She's just lying down. Braden, you're asking what are hyenas like when they're hunting? Well, Braden, hyenas when they hunt are an animal that uses each other to hunt, and they... I don't know if you noticed when Ntima was standing up that her back legs are longer than her front legs. And so with hyenas, they are like marathon runners. So they're not sprinters like the cats, like the lion and the leopard and the cheetah. They unfortunately are built to run for long periods. And so when they hunt, what they will do is they will chase an animal for as long as that animal can run for, and eventually the animal gets too tired and it falls over, and the hyenas then come and grab it. So they will use each other, and they will try as a clan to surround that animal and chase it and chase it and chase it. And they are very fit hyenas, and so they can keep chasing for a long, long time, and eventually then they grab it. And as a clan together, so multiple hyenas, lots of hyenas together, will try and pull that animal down. It's very, very interesting, and it works really well. And in fact, in some areas of Africa, the hyenas are actually better hunters than the lions, and the lions scavenge from the hyenas and not the hyenas scavenging from the lions. So it just changes where you are. It depends on the density of each one. And so when I talk about density, I mean the number of lions versus the number of hyenas. If there's an area with lots more lions, then you find hyenas scavenge, but if it's a lot more hyenas, then the lions often scavenge. Ben, you want to know what part of Africa has the most lions? Well, Ben, there's pretty good populations that are spread across Kenya, Tanzania, then you'll get good populations in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, and here in South Africa. Those are the better populations of lions. In terms of which country has the most, I'm actually not sure which one it is now. The numbers change quite a bit, but I would say probably you would find maybe Tanzania, I would say, would have the highest population, followed by Botswana, and then Kenya and South Africa. And after that, Zimbabwe, and then you'll have a few other countries that will have lions as well. But that's roughly what I would imagine the layout would be. Like I say, it does change because some years we'll have weather that will be different in different countries. So if here in South Africa we get a lot of drought, which means that we don't get rain, which is what we had the last 2 years, then the numbers of lions theoretically must increase because the animals are weaker and it's easier for them to hunt, and they can provide food for their cubs, and so they should grow in numbers. Whereas if it's a very wet year, the animals are much stronger and it's harder for them to get food, and they find then that the numbers of lions goes down. So that will depend how the numbers work out as well. Look, it's listening now, so it's heard something. Hyenas have very good hearing. Parker, you want to know how many hyenas I've seen and how many live together. Parker, I can't tell you how many hyenas I've seen. I've seen, probably in my time as working out in the bush, easily I would say over 1,000 hyenas in my time. There's been hyenas, I've seen hyenas pretty much every day. Obviously some of them are the same hyenas, but I've had lots and lots of sightings of hyenas across lots of different countries and different game reserves, so I've seen a lot. But in terms of how many live in a clan, well, that depends. It depends on the area, and it depends on how successful the clan is. Some clans do better than others. This particular clan has had a really tough time over the last few years. They were in an area where lions had cubs last year, and the lions spent so much time here that they were very hard on the hyenas, and the hyenas had to move, and they've had a few cubs that have been killed, and so their number hasn't really grown. So in total, in this clan at the moment, I'm not 100% sure of some of the ones because we've had 2 hyenas die recently, and I'm not sure if they're from this clan, but theoretically we should have 5 adult females, and then there's a whole bunch of cubs and some young and some males that hang around as well. But in other clans, so a clan just to the west of us, not very far at all, with the neighboring clan, there's over 50 in that clan. So sometimes hyena clans can get up to 70. It really is quite amazing to see how big they can get. As long as they can find food and water, and they can find safe places for their cubs, you'll find that they can grow and grow and grow and become very large. As soon as they can't sustain themselves and feed themselves, they'll then split into smaller groupings in the area. But you can get very large clans of up to 70, 80 individuals, which is amazing to see. Jessa, you want to know what the difference is between a boy and a girl. Jessa, this is a very good question because it's very, very, very difficult to tell the difference between a boy and a girl hyena. And the reason why is because a girl hyena actually is in charge of the clan, which means that she gets bigger and stronger. So if you saw a hyena and you saw 2 standing next to each other, you would think the big, strong hyena is a male, but it's not. It's a female. All right, so you'll find that with these guys, the females are bigger, and the reason why they're bigger is because it's a matriarchal society. So matriarch means the female is in charge, and she looks after the whole clan and makes sure the clan is working. And so she actually produces more testosterone than what the male does, and therefore grows much bigger and larger than what the male does and dominates the male. So to tell the difference between male and female, you've got to look for the bigger ones. But if they're still cubs like this, it is very, very difficult. The only reason that we know that she's a female is because we saw her lady parts, and we know that that is a girl, not a boy. So that's how we can tell, but it is very difficult when they're still little babies. Not easy to identify male and female as cubs. But shame, she's very sleepy at the moment. Now, while I sit and watch our very sleepy little hyena cub, let's go back to Taylor, who's got her light out, and maybe she'll be lucky with an owl this evening, or another nocturnal creature. Well, as you can see, it is pitch black at the moment, so we can't see anything. That's with our eyes, but as soon as we use our special light, there is our little hyena cub, still curled up and sitting on its mound. So isn't that amazing that we can use a light and still be able to see what's going on, and it doesn't affect the animals at all. The animals, like us, can't see the light, so it's the same for them. That's why we can use it. You can see their eyes are open. There is a little bit of a glistening because there is a small bit of light that is being put on the eyes, but they don't see it just like we don't. So it works really well for seeing our cubs in the darkness. Esther, you want to know what my favorite animal is? Well, Esther, hands down, it is the spotted, beautiful leopard. I absolutely love leopards. They're an amazing animal. They spend a lot of time on their own, but they have the beautiful coat, and when you've seen a leopard and spent time around a leopard, it's a magical experience. So that is my favorite animal by a long way. And then I have two in second place that are close, which is elephant and wild dogs. And the hyenas then come after that. Lions are a little bit lower down, unfortunately, but it's because I like the hyenas, wild dogs, the fact that, and elephants, all of them, they have an amazing social structure. They all look after one another. It's all about the families, and they keep each other close, and they protect one another. And it's very interesting to watch those three because they all have these strong family bonds that you don't see in a lot of the animals out here. So that's why I like spending time with them. Also, hyenas are incredibly intelligent, so that's why they make the top part of my list. But leopards for sure are my favorites. They're such amazing animals and so powerful for their size. It really is an incredible animal to watch when it hunts and when it moves, and they certainly are spectacular. And they're a tough animal to find in many parts of the world. We're very spoilt here where we work that we see leopards quite a lot. In fact, we've been seeing leopards almost every day this week. Today's the first day that we haven't, so... Esther, you want to know if I have a good story about a leopard? Oh, Esther, I've got lots of good stories about leopards. I've seen many, many leopards in my time and seen some amazing things, but the most recent story that I have was yesterday. So, in fact, the last 3 days, because we followed the same young male leopard around and he gave us the most amazing sightings. But he was left by his mom while she went off hunting, and he was sitting and he was all curled up, staying out of the wind yesterday afternoon, and he had just finished eating a tortoise, of all things, and he had been crunching away at the tortoise, and he then decided, after looking at some birds, that he was going to lie down and sleep. And then out of nowhere, he lifted his head, and he was looking, and we thought maybe he had spotted something to hunt. And then he started to call, and he made a sound that we call chuffing. Now, chuffing, it basically goes like this. It's... And that's how the female will often call their cub, or the cub will talk to their mom. And so I thought maybe his mom had come back, and we looked, and there was this big male leopard that was staring at him. And this poor male got a big fright, and he ran away, and the male leopard came in, and then it was just chaos, and the little cub was running, and the male leopard was there with us and all over the place. So it was really quite something to see, and it was an amazing sighting. And then we watched this male leopard as he walked around sniffing where this young male had been lying. It was an incredible sighting. So that's the most recent one I've had, but I've had leopards doing all kinds of things. I've had leopards chasing animals, hunting, killing, going up and down trees, all kinds of crazy, crazy sightings. I've seen, like I say, a lot of leopards in my time, and I think we'd have to be here all year if I had to tell you all about all the stories that I've had. So I've been very, very lucky. The other thing that our young male leopard did, as well as he had a bit of fun with elephants. He was in amongst the elephants and he was watching them, and we had the elephant in the background and the leopard was seeing how it was walking. It was really quite something to see. So we've had lots of spoiled leopard sightings this week alone. But I think what we're going to do is leave our hyena. There's no sign of the adults, so we're going to try and head home, and on our way home past where I thought I saw that, well, where we had those leopard tracks, and maybe I'll be lucky enough to give you guys a leopard story of your own. While I do that, I believe Taylor has managed to find the biggest and bulkiest of our animals out here, and they're also in infrared.